Are you sitting comfortably? Then we'll begin.
Hi there, and welcome to episode 93 of There's Still Time, the AFTN podcast. My name is Steve Pandher.
I'm Zachary out of Meisenheimer.
And I'm Lamothe.
As you heard in the introductions there is no Michael McCall. The Scot has left the country and is either
invading England,
or he's scouting for East Fife or something like that. But we're here joined by Zach and Lamothe to talk about the preseason that's gone on so far, the offseason. We haven't talked, obviously, since our failed season in review, where we only did half of the season.
I was disappointed when I heard you guys canceled the rest of it.
Flus and stuff like that, you can't control that, so that's what happened there.
So we can't talk about it sometime?
No, we could talk about it some other time, I guss. We'll do it in mid-March or something like that.
Or the decade review.
Yeah, exactly. You know how I like rehashing will.
So the off seasons are going on. I think first and foremost, there were a lot of, I think more changes than people expected. Obviously, especially the back end. What stood out to you in the changes? Especially, let's talk about the departures first. The bad news. What stood out to you guys at the beginning?
I'm on a virtual ride for Andy O'Brien not coming back. It's really
as long as it's virtual.
Yeah. Well, we'll see if it becomes anything more than that. But no, yeah, I mean, Andy O'Brien not coming back is understandable. Like when you talk about age and year of contract wanted, the role he wanted to play, like it's understandable. But I think it's kind of frustrating and kind of like a bit sad, from on a personal, on a relational, and an emotional level. And so, he's going to be missed, and like, especially if he's retired, right? Like, if this is the end for him,
it seems that's the case, right?
Yeah, so that kind of adds. So there wasn't that really farewell moment, and maybe we'll have to create some of those for him, or one of those for him. But so I think Andy O'Brien, not coming back, coupled with Johnny Leveron not coming back, because I think with Andy, I think we saw some of the best of Andy, and we saw some of the best of him both on the field and off the field. With Johnny Leveron,
the best was yet to come.
Yeah, I think the best was yet. And I think we've talked about it here a number of times in the past, where Johnny is. You could say this maybe is true of all players, really, but Johnny, you really saw the difference between Johnny filling in and Johnny having a run in the side. And I think Johnny having a run in the side was a player that would definitely contribute to our side in 2015. And so I think, and like his ability to hammer a ball, to hit a ball, whether it's on the pass or to hammer from free kicks, or like if you've gone to training and seen like just when they're joking around at the end or whatever, and they're just putting in crosses for him and he's just smacking them on the volley consistently over and over again into the net. And we never got to see some of those things as much as we'd like in the first team. And so I think both of those, in and of themselves, I think are kind of sad, or for some people they're sad and kind of disappointing. And then I think on the other side was this bringing in Pa Mudaka, who like,
I know we joked about it.
No, you joked about it. You're wrong. I have no problem. I don't have the same feelings towards. I don't like the Portland Timber Football Club. Like, I don't like their club. I have an appreciation for their football culture and some of their supporters. even Seattle, as much as I don't like the club, I have an appreciation for some of their supporters. But I don't have the same. For me, it's not the same. It's not the same. Not the same as someone coming from Seattle.
You were mentioning that before too in the other
totally.
ones. Yeah.
So there's not that. That's not the issue with Ka. It's just his performance. It's all based on performance. When you ask people from Portland, they're like, "Yeah, he's a great guy, and we'll miss him off the field. We won't miss it. We won't miss the inconsistency or the sporadic tackles or the cards or giving away penalties or whatever on the pitch." Yeah. And I think we've seen that already here. He's only been here a few weeks, and he's already this lovable, nice guy who is going to be great for media and great with his teammates.
Kakuta.
He's Kakuta's new father, whatever, all this kind of stuff. But so all that's good, but it's still, we have yet to see will his performance be at a different level, right?
Yeah.
And I'm sure it'll take, like, if you Google his name, it'll take just like that's one of those goals that he scored in Hull, and that crazy goal he scored in Hull. It'll take one of those, and like no one will care. He could give away 3 penalties, and no one will care. But
Slamo, we talked about Ka there, but another guy that came in and essentially is kind of the replacement for Leveron is Diego Rodriguez. Now, this is a guy that clearly Raul scouted in Uruguay. And so, what do you think about him? Do you think that eventually, obviously, you haven't seen Rodriguez play, but do you think there's a chance that might be an upgrade in that case?
An upgrade to Leveron?
Leveron, yes, possibly.
Well, it's hard to say Johnny had a better pedigree as far as going to the Olympics, captaining the Honduran Olympic team, stuff like that, right? Whereas Rodriguez is a virtual unknown, right? I mean, if you watch the Olympics, you should have known who Leveron was based on how Honduras surprised everyone.
And how well he played.
And he was the star player, right? I mean, as far as defensively goes. But from what I gather and what I've seen from Rodriguez is he's also a skilled player, right? Which I think it's so underrated in North America for whatever reason. Like you look at a guy like Varane, and he wouldn't even play in North America, because it'd be like, who's this skill guy? You'd make him a winger or something, right? We don't value those center backs like that, which is what pisses me off the most about Leveron, was that he's just such a skill player. And people talk about pace or whatever other things, right? And that's what
But if you know where you're supposed to be and
exactly.
you can handle it, you don't need the pace.
And my concern with having, because what I'm hearing is that Ka is more likely to be the starter, right? Are you hearing that? Yeah. So at this point, it's close.
It's up in the air. It's more experience with Ka.
Yeah. So my concern is having two overly aggressive center backs pushing up forward and impacting the back line and draining goals, right?
Now, a question to both of you guys about this. Now, the center back position obviously is very crucial, and you need a lot of chemistry with Ousted and everything. Looking back from this year's camp to last year's camp, the only center back that's still here is Christian Dean.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There basically have been, Waston showed up halfway through the season, luckily for that. And then you have 3 changes, basically 3 new guys in there. Is that going to be an issue initially?
Oh yeah, for sure. It'll be an issue, and it'll be as far as fans go. First off, I hate to say this, but I think we're going to lose opening day. Honestly, I do. And I think that, if the first few games we give up 3-5 goals, there's going to be a bit of pandemonium, negative impact there, right? How people overreact to certain things. It'll be get rid of Ousted, bring back Knighton for Pete's sakes or something, right?
You must enjoy the fact that he scored.
And this first one, well, both of them really were weak finishes, right? He would
like to have those back.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think that's more, people will react to that, and then that energy is not good to have around a club, right? So that I guess worries me.
I think the whole center back, I think when these transactions were happening and it was coming out that Johnny and Andy were coming back, and then these were the guys who were coming in, and they were kind of known. There was that oh no, we went from a position of strength to a position of weakness. I think I'm slowly being okay, this is I think going to be okay. It is going to be different. I'm also going to miss Carlisle Mitchell. I know he had moments where great. He thought David Usid was going to clatter into him, and so he kind of makes a motion and he gives away a handball. But I think last year you felt no worry. We could have 2-3 suspensions or injuries, and we're gonna have guys who been here. They know each other. They know how they're going to play. You felt kind of comfortable, and so going into this, it's that whole idea of how tight that line is going to be, which then also means one of the other questions about that, does that then impact how much first team minutes Sam will get?
Yeah.
Because you want a Jordan Harvey who's more experienced. You want someone to help bring some stability and leadership to that back and continuity to that back line. And
also how do Harvey and Betashore react to if we end up with Waston and Kaw playing the middle and pushing up too high? Because they will. They both are that type of player, which is fine if you have Andy O'Brien. When Waston was up high, as long as someone's below him, right? There was the one goal where Waston came running up. That was at the Dallas. It was a playoff game. Yeah. Where he got caught. Yeah. One of them got caught, right? Yeah. But, if we're running into those situations, do Harvey and Betashore start holding back and you end up with that, England national team with 4 guys standing at the half line watching the game for 40 minutes, right?
Yeah.
So that concerns me as well.
So a couple other guys that left... one other guy, major guy that left that really, I still don't think they found a replacement yet for him. They have a couple trialists. We'll talk about that later. Sebastian Fernandez. Maybe they're assuming that Kukuda Mane can take that step and replace him in the starting 11. What's your guys' thoughts on the Fernandez and not really having
him? More Nico,
but I think they played him in the middle. Well, let's talk about that. The preseason match itself, we had a couple of changes where we had Pedro Morales playing in deep, and then you had Nico playing up top.
Yeah.
Marco played in front of Pedro when they played, but then you had Nico play up top too, and he was rave reviews, and especially with his another new addition, Octavio Rivero, who scored both goals.
Let's not get too.
No, I'm just saying it's this is initial. This is all initial stuff.
Yeah, this is one match with 2 separate lineups and 2 halves with even some.
And we had the New England second half was the USL Pro blend. A lot of those guys won't ever see MLS minutes, right? So
you're gonna keep on harping on poor Brad.
Yeah, well, he's not. He did play a little bit. He put up 2 goals. Yeah, that's right. No, last season, regular season. Yeah, but he's not going to play, and I don't think he wasn't going up against the top line. But that said, my first reaction of watching the highlights of that game made me think of DeVio, right? You've got a forward like that who makes those runs, because he made 6 runs that were flat out awesome.
And timing and everything was perfect.
It doesn't matter if it's a pylon or if it's a run's a run.
It's the run.
Yeah.
It's the recognizing when you see that, especially that second goal, when you see the ball come to Nico, he recognizes this is a run I can make.
Yeah.
And there's space for it, and the situation is on. And whether or not the ball is going to get there or not all the time, he makes that run. Yeah.
The second goal, especially, because that was the first one that I saw, was the highlight of the 2 goals. And then I saw the extended highlights, and it was he made about 6 runs that were awesome. So when you look at how we talk about North America doesn't appreciate those skill center backs, well, that's true around MLS.
Yeah.
So when you got a guy like DeVio who can just simply make good runs, and center backs tend to be in MLS not the quality that you see around the world because we have a different standard, right? Then he's got an opportunity. He looks like a guy who can score MLS goals. Right?
Yeah, he the thing is about him was that I think his timing was perfect on a lot of them, and even the second goal. I know it seems like an easy thing to round the keeper.
Yeah.
But how many Whitecaps strikers have you seen that being able to do that? And that's something that, you have a chance to do when you make those runs.
Yeah.
Corey Herzog.
Big blast from the past.
But the thing, so with the camera angle on that second goal in the highlights of the camera angle, he makes that first kind of half run and yells for the ball, and then realizes once the center back takes that step forward, then he yells again and makes the quick run, right? And then Nico hits him over the top. So he changed that run, right? And that's the recognition that Maddox doesn't have, right?
What are your guys' thoughts on Pedro Morales playing as a deep line playmaker? Say next to Alaba or Kofi. Do you think?
Oh yeah.
And would you prefer that, or would you prefer Lab and Kofi and Morales up top?
I prefer we do well. So
whatever it takes.
I think they could have options.
Back.
Yeah.
Left back. If he gets the ball with space in front of him, play him at left back, right? I don't care. You build him into the offense where he's going to have space in front of him and he's going to be awesome. Right?
Do you think they should try a 4-4-2 if this
not with him low lying?
No, not that's a low. Then you have Laba as that last guy, and he'd be on one of the sides.
Yeah. But if you're doing a 4-2-3-1, but I don't think you can have I'm not sure really with the way we're set up right now. We've already talked about the center backs. You can't have Pedro be in the bottom of a diamond.
No, that's definitely not the case.
Yeah.
No, not a Pirlo where sometimes Pirlo is there by himself.
No. Even I think even if he plays the
line,
he's going to be moving up
with Caldwell.
You'll have to read the Southsider form to get that joke.
Insider,
one other change. It's actually, we're recording on Thursday. It's his birthday today. Bryce Alderson left, but they did sign Ben McKendry, another Renzi guy who went through New Mexico. You guys' thoughts on that switch up? Either Bryce or Ben coming in.
I think it's. We were talking about it before. It's just sad to see Bryce go, and it's sad to see without really developing. And so you think, had we been able to be more proactive earlier and have a USL Pro setup, he did great in PDL.
Yeah, he's the same player he was when he was 16, right? That shouldn't be the case 5 years later.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, so had he been able to go through from residency, those PDL, and then right into a USL Pro, you think
it would have made a big difference. The thing is, he had that 1 year where he was completely wasted, where he was injured and everything like that. That was hurt. What do you guys thoughts on Ben McKendry and his rise? He was not well regarded. He was kind of lower regarded.
Think back. Remember 4 years ago when we did the first rank in the youth.
Right, yeah.
He was 10th or something.
Yeah,
right?
I think he was 7th or 8th. He was in the 7th or 8th.
He was the afterthought.
Yeah,
but throughout that time, he just kept at it and kept playing, and you could just watch the skill come and watch the change of his game and the confidence coming. And it didn't matter because he played, who did he play with? Played with Morpha, played with Rowley. He had a lot of center mids he played with.
Alderson he played with too.
Alderson, so he went through a lot of changes throughout his youth career, and then going into NCAA. And just the improvement's been constant. So I know we'll probably talk about Alan later, but when Alan was talking about Jovan Blagojevic, and it's the same sort of thing where there's no ceiling, right? Because he's gotten better every step of the way, right?
And the thing is, talking about Alan was the one. Ben was actually initially going to go to SFU. Mm-hmm. Alan found him a spot in New Mexico with his connections. So Alan's been helping, obviously, the Whitecaps with their players for more than just this last couple of years. One last thing we'll talk about the preseason camp so far is the trialists that were announced once they got to Arizona. I know Khalif Al-Hassan is going to be, I know not as a sore spot as Rosales, but out of the two there, we'll talk about them first. Al-Hassan and Dane Richards, Which one of those two do you think might have that shot at that open spot?
Dane's way more refined, right?
Yeah, but I can't see them bringing in Dane to be a part of the first.
I think
he's here to train and then trade. Yeah, totally.
No.
So I think how do you say his name?
Halif.
I think he could be a part of our depth or whatever, but I think if we're bringing him to be like a starter, I'd be a little bit concerned. Because I think importantly, part of the reason why he's not still important is he wasn't consistent enough, right?
Yeah.
I think he scored some crazy goals for them, but I just don't think. I don't think that they can bring him in to be someone who's going to contribute a major amount of time, which is a similar feeling to how people felt when Ka was signed. Okay, fine, if he's a mentor, background, kind of whatever, but
the hospital.
Earnshaw, that I could see that. I could see that feeling.
I'm thinking, as we talked about it last week, Maddox went to that trial. First he went to England just to set up the Sweden one. Do you think they brought in Earnshaw in case that Swedish team does decide to take a chance at Maddox and bring him in? to take him over because the Swedish guy was saying they're going to take their time and keep looking at him during the preseason because they know he's still out there.
Are you saying Earnshaw only signs with us if we subtract?
If Maddox goes because of the money thing, because can they afford Earnshaw? Because Earnshaw,
what was he on last year?
I don't know, like 100 and something.
He's got
to be 6 figures at least, and maybe low 6 figures. But do you think there's space for Earnshaw if Maddox stays?
I don't think they're related.
I didn't either. No. I mean, I've heard lots of people say that, but I don't necessarily think they are. I could see Darren staying and them bringing in Earnshaw.
Yes, I agree.
Do you think you just need the depth for the CCL?
There's
and
lots of
stuff?
games coming, right? And he's like a
you need an experienced
Kenny
guy.
Miller teacher. Like he's a quality player. We can laugh at him for his TFC days or whatever all we want, but as far as his career goes, he's a solid.
He didn't have too bad a strike rate even at TFC. I can't remember the stats and everything, but
he was their leading scorer, I think. Wasn't he?
Yeah. But he was
like
doing a lot of
goals.
diving and stuff too.
Lots of penalties.
Yeah.
But no, I could see Earnshaw being in this team. Like, I might not do cartwheels about that move, but like, I could see it being like a positive having that experienced striker in the side that we've been lacking since Kenny left.
Farrell's pretty young too, right? He's a young DP.
Oh yeah,
he's are we the second youngest team in the league?
Younger, maybe Columbus might be younger or something like that. Columbus is pretty young.
One of the top 2 young teams anyway, right?
Definitely. So that's our thoughts on the preseason so far and the additions and the departures that the Whitecaps have gone through. One of the guys that may not be classified as a new addition, but kind of feels like because his contract was up and there was rumors that he was going to go back to Europe, but now he has signed, he will play with the Whitecaps this year, is Caleb Clarke, a homegrown residency player. Michael had a chance last week during training to catch up with him. You've seen the article posted online, so you can check it out there, but here's the audio version. So take a listen.
So Caleb, just how does it feel kind of coming back now to the Whitecaps, having been away last year over in Germany?
Good. It was a great experience. Got to play a lot of games and it was really good. Got to play the games that I couldn't play here, but after the injury, it's just great to be back on the fields for sure.
I think like when you re-signed, it surprised a lot of people because we thought you'd probably want to kind of maybe explore Europe a bit more. Mm-hmm. What was behind your decision to re-sign?
I was just really happy with how the club has changed over the past couple of years, and I think that the team spirit and stuff since I've been back is a lot better than when I left, so I thought that I'd stick around and try to make my spot in the first team. So.
Excellent. Now the USL Pro aspect of it, did that play a big part in making you want to kind of come back here? Because if you're not in the MLS team, you've got that to definitely get some minutes.
At first I didn't even know
okay.
before I made kind of my decision, but obviously that helps because it's more games, and maybe it was something that was lacking last year that the younger guys weren't able to have those games, so it's good to get it now. So I think that will be a good thing.
Now, how did you find the whole experience of playing in Germany? Carl Robinson's talked about the guys who went on training stints in the UK in December and how they've come back and they kind of noticed that to play in Europe and at that next level, it's a big jump from MLS. Did you kind of find that as well? Did you find the division that you were in, was it kind of pretty much the same?
Especially at the start, obviously this is a really physical athletic league, and there it's a lot more technical, tactical, and it's quicker, so you have to get used to that, and obviously it took a little bit to get used to, and training with the first team in Augsburg, it was even quicker, so it took a while to get used to, but when I did, it was great, and I liked it a lot.
Now, the injury you had, what exactly happened there?
It was crazy. It was just the end of the season, the last training before the last game of the season, and just doing some shooting at the end of training, and I kind of felt a rip as I was doing a shot, and started to feel better after a couple days. I was like, oh, maybe I'll get into the last game, and I got the MRI back, and my the tendon that connects your quad muscle to your hip, it had completely ripped off, so had to get surgery right away, and so I was going to have it there, but I flew back. I was able to get it the day after I came back, so I got it here, and yeah, since then I've been trying to get back, so it's a long process. But
last season, obviously, there's lots of scoring woes here. What do you feel that you can now offer the club in that department, and what do you feel you need to work on in your game now to get a run in the MLS team?
I feel that one of my strengths is finishing. I scored lots of goals there, and hopefully I can bring that here. And to get into the first team, obviously I've got to get fit and sharp again first, and then from there just kind of focus on demanding the ball and being strong, being the leader up front, and scoring goals. Of course, that will get me in there, I'm sure.
And what are your kind of hopes and aspirations for this season?
Definitely to play in MLS games. And try to get into a regular starting spot, coming off the bench, that kind of thing. Really help the team score goals, and that's what I do, so hopefully I can do that for the team.
Great, thanks so much, and good luck with everything. Great to see you back. Thanks, Caleb.
So that was Caleb Clarke of Vancouver Whitecaps, recently re-signed. Zach, your initial thoughts on Caleb Clarke coming back?
Yeah, we're stoked. Just so excited to see him come back. We saw him score so many goals for the residency in so many different ways.
Caleb Clarke, superstar.
How many goals has he scored so far? So, you see him starting the season playing a lot of USL Pro, and I think if he's able to express himself in scoring a lot of goals as he's done at the various levels, then his performances will demand time in the first team, and I think Rob will give it to him. So I'm excited to hopefully see that play out.
Some?
Yeah, I agree. Can't say anything different or more. I think that's what'll happen, and I think he will earn it. I think he'll score a bag full of goals, and he'll get some quality minutes in MLS.
And I think his style suits what Rubble wants out of the central forward too, about holding up play, getting other people into the game and stuff like that.
Well, I think his style is even harder to define, because I think as a youngster, he was quite well-rounded, right? Yeah. As far as making runs, playing hold up, taking crosses, or not taking crosses, receiving crosses,
But I think if you look at his stats from Germany when he played there, I think he didn't score too many goals. He scored enough goals, but his assists were very high, so that showed that he was getting his other teammates involved in there.
Yeah, and if you watch some of the highlights,
playing back to goal.
Yeah, you got to see him be involved in the build-up to a lot of goals, which is great, because he did do that in residency, but not as much. He was very much the sharp end of the stick.
Well, he did with residency. Ben 10 because Ben 10 scored a lot of goals that were laid off plays or
by him. He's a good all-around striker, I think, and I think he'll do well this year. You were talking about him and USL Pro. Let's talk about the recent appointment of Alan Koch, former SFU coach, to that head position. You are an SFU alum or married to one, or both. When you follow the program quite a bit. Slamo, what do you think of this appointment? What do you think?
I think it's awesome. It's right after I can't remember who retweeted, but I got a thing on my phone after he was signed, and it was a retweet of a tweet I made like February 2014 or something that said Alan Koch for USL Pro Whitecaps, something like that, right? So I've been going to games, I don't know, 6-7 years now. I've been going to games, and
sometimes Slamo even goes to the game while we're painting tifo.
I do, yes, I do. But so, what you're going to see is you're going to see a team that's committed to every tackle. Yeah. You're going to see a team that's going to score on set pieces, because it's all about conviction, right? That's his big word, right? Is conviction. So you got to be committed to every play. You're going to see a team that's playing fast, right? And you're going to see a team that never has 2 bad halves in a row, right? Because he won't allow it. So I think he's an awesome coach. And for me, it was such a natural fit with Robo as well, because they're the same. SFU played like Robo, right? You could see that style, right? So I'm stoked. I'm so happy for Alan, and I think that's a fantastic opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, I only watched like a couple, 2, 3, 4 games up at SFU with you guys and you and Goff and whatnot. But yeah, I mean, SFU has this program where you can see the progression, you can see the development, you can see, if you can use the word professionalism of how they do things is pretty awesome. And, I think one of the things I think about when I think about SFU's and Alan's time there is they were really intentional about things.
Yeah.
So, which goes with your comment about conviction. Like, I think that he does things with intention. So I think that'll be really, really awesome. And yeah, as you listen to him speak in the interviews and stuff, and read articles, you get this sense of, here's this person who really wanted to be a part of the club and wanted to take this type of step at this time and was willing to give up a lot to do that. To kind of step away from this kind of awesome thing that he had basically built. And so he's wanting to build something else. And so I'm really excited to see how he's going to do that. And I think there's good synergy between him and Robbo and the rest of the coaching staff, which I think is really, really key.
And you're talking about a guy who's done recruiting all over Europe and Africa. Like he's got this connections.
He's got connections.
Right?
I think he's got a good eye for talent.
Yeah.
Recruiting wise. I think that's going to also help them, because when he's playing against maybe opponents, he'll be able to spot somebody that's interesting and maybe ready for the first team action with the Whitecaps. So that's important. And I think he's good at developing. Obviously, we've talked about with guys like Blagojevich, who's recently drafted, that they get better and better every year as they go on. Rowley. And other players too.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be surprised to see Alex in USL Pro next year, along with Ryan Dillon, right? You wouldn't
some
be
guys
surprised
like that
to see a couple of those guys take that step now.
And then the final thing is, like you said, he plays entertaining style of game. It is all. I know. Obviously, he's going to have to adjust because there's not unlimited substitutions like in the NCAA, but. Rolling, but it's still unlimited as well. You can bring people back on and off all he wants, but he's going to adjust to that because obviously he can't run the team total, overdrive. They're going to have to do it, but I'm sure he'll adjust to that. He's coached other places as well where there wasn't that option.
Yeah. And the thing too is, he's going to be a supporter of supporters.
Yes,
right? Like he's tried a lot of different things at SFU to get people going, and he, talking about playing matches at Swangard, or how do we get people out there, right? Obviously, he was limited by, where they could sell alcohol and that sort of stuff, right? But I mean, he's somebody who understands that supporters are a big part of the experience, right?
Yeah. I think in that he's a quality guy. Like he's a quality up front, stand up kind of guy, and so. Excited about that, and excited about the schedule coming out.
Yeah, and obviously he knows who he's going to play, so because the schedule just came out. What are you guys? Obviously, they're playing all the games at UBC. Not too many overlaps where it comes to a Saturday and games on the same day. There's quite a few. One game and the game next day somewhere else. What are you guys' overall thoughts on the schedule, and what interests you? Maybe a away trip, or maybe who's coming in.
I mean, as I went through the schedule and compared to the first team schedule, and saw what could work. I think I am considering. I'm not for sure, but I'm hoping to maybe do the San Jose Salt Lake away for the first team. And so between those two games, you have Orange County Blues away and Sacramento away. So it's like 4 games in like 8 days that could be done, which would be a pretty exciting and awesome.
That'd be an epic road trip for sure.
Yeah, with 6 days of vacation, right?
Yeah.
So that's pretty awesome for your vacation bookings as well.
In California.
Yeah. And there's obviously they're opening the season against TFC2, which is just like the first team, which again, I'm going to say it again. I can't stand when we have to play a natural rival in the opening game. That's a game you could sell it against anybody for the Whitecaps. So, there was no need to do that. You could schedule that for later in the year.
I'm of that philosophy. I've talked to people though who are involved in making those decisions or giving influence to those decisions, and they've said selling out the first match is not as easy as you think. And they would
They did against New York last year.
No, I know, but they would say New York for them is a draw. So
They knew Thierry Henry.
but
maybe not everybody knew.
No,
that,
but just New York. Like the fact that New York was a draw. So because we've said this over and over as we have meetings with the front office, we've said, please, like, can we get Columbus here opening day? Like, it doesn't matter. And they're like, no, we need it to be a draw to get it. And it's also about not just that game, it's also about building momentum. And so we have an incredible record, which Slamo says is going to end on opening day, but we have an incredible record on opening days. And it's like following the Whitecap wave, if you will, like, because then people come because they come.
Yeah.
It's been great, and then they keep coming back. So, I mean, for WFC2, I don't know how much that's going to play a role, but in terms of like people coming and being like, oh, this is we're playing Toronto, I got to be there, it's going to be great and whatever, and then. Yeah, I guess we play Seattle is in the second game a week later, so maybe that will help things, I guess. But those first couple home games, but to make them meaningful, but we'll see. I think this is they're struggling to sell tickets. It's going
to be a slow build for this I don't think they should expect to sell too many right off the bat because you're not even selling out your first team.
Yeah.
So let's take it easy, and that's why I guess they're having these open tryouts to see who they can get for spots on, because obviously they don't want to spend too much money on the depth players.
I mean, well, I know. So I wish
it's a 1-year lease right? Is it 1 year lease?
I'm not sure about that. If they
UBC?
Yeah.
I don't know, because they have this.
I'm sure there's an out clause if they need to.
Yeah, there's a part. Yeah, they're in the midst of this huge partnership with them, right? So who knows? But I think the ticket sales, what I gather, no one has said this to me, but like they're not going as well as they would like. But I think this is the kind of thing where. And I don't even know where my own heart is fully at in it. This is the kind of thing where you can make these games what you want to be. I know geography sucks. I know that a lot of people are like, oh, I don't like where it is. And that's legitimate. I don't I have no issues with that concern. The Maple Bridge boys, I've heard you guys say, like, there's no way I'm ever going to go to a game because of geography. And I respect that. And I totally understand that. But I think that really this is and maybe we've said this before on the show, but this is an opportunity for like, trying things in terms of being as supporters. We can try some things out. We can do some things. We can probably do some things maybe we can't do in an MLS match. And it almost be what you make it to be.
Yeah.
And so I think there's great opportunity, and I don't know if that's all going to play out in year one, but I think there's some exciting opportunities that come with this kind of thing. And as you say, they are where they are, and they'll be there for as long as they want to or feel like they should be.
Yeah.
But I think there might be an openness to going other places in a year or 2 or 3 or whatever.
What are you guys' thoughts on the notion of development versus winning in USL Pro? Is it all one way, or do you think it's kind of correlated because you need to develop a winning style,
well, I think
a winning attitude?
Being in Vancouver, and I think you look at the Giants for that answer, right? So the Giants win, they sell tickets. The Giants don't win, regardless of whether they're making NHL players or not, they're not drawing, right? And I think the same is true. I don't like to compare the two sports generally, but I think when you're talking about fan bases, you kind of can.
I think for Vancouver, it's almost any sport you're talking about when you're talking about winning and people showing.
But I think that's true for any city.
Not every city.
Look at Montreal. Look at what Joey Saputo said this week about Montreal.
Yeah.
Right? About how they just say if we win, people will come back.
No, I think even if they win, I don't think Montreal sells out too much for football.
But they haven't really won yet.
So well, they made the playoffs that first year.
Yeah, but to the question, I think that if they want the fans, they need to focus on winning, right? If they want the supporters to show up and yell and scream, it doesn't matter, because we'll do that for development, right? To see our own players become better and end up in the first team, hopefully, right?
I think this goes to, I think one of the issues that you talk a lot about on the podcast, Slamo, is that it has to do with culture, right?
Yeah.
And so in one sense, we do have a bit of a culture of winning, and it's those other things that are missing from the culture. So I think that this has an opportunity to contribute to both those things, like developing the bigger culture, which a part of that is development, but part of that is investing in players progressing, and we have the chance to also further our the winning culture that's you could say at least somewhat exists with the history of our club. Or I mean, in the history it really exists, but in the recent history it's maybe not as prominent. Aside from the Cascadia Cup.
So that's our thoughts on the USL Pro, the WFC2 or the Thunder Caps, if that's going to be the name or not, if people are going to call that. I'm not sure about that.
I'm sure there'll be a 2-stick or a railing banner.
But Michael had a chance at when the announcement of Alan to the head spot. Michael was there and he had a exclusive one-on-one with Alan, and they talked about what he's looking forward and what he's looking to do with WFC2.
When I spoke to you before, we talked about whether you wanted to kind of go into the pro ranks, and you said it would have to be the right opportunity. What was it about this that you felt was that right opportunity?
Have a lot of respect for the club, have a lot of respect for the people that work for the club. I definitely have a very similar philosophy to Robbo, and to move to the pro ranks if you don't actually have to leave home, or my adopted home, is obviously a lot easier. I've had other opportunities to go away and go live in a different country and all that type of stuff, and those weren't the right fit. I feel very passionate, very loyal to the SFU program, but this was too good to pass by.
Now you talk about the same philosophy as Robbo. You're kind of a student of the game. I've bumped into you at local games, VSML, Provincial Cup. Robbo's like that as well. He watches a lot of football. Yeah. Did the two of you kind of just really bond right away talking about the game?
Yeah, I think so. I think we're people that are very passionate about the game. We love the game. We can talk very easily about the game. And then obviously having done some work with him, I was here last summer watching them train all the time. I guess he was picking my brain, I was picking his brain, and then going through the whole draft process in terms of scouting players, assessing players, seeing what he values and what I value. I think we can see we're on a very, very similar page.
And was that like a key thing for it? Was that kind of like a trial for you, just to see if the players you were identifying were the kind of guys that you wanted?
I think definitely. It's players go on trial, but coaches go on trial too sometimes, and it's sometimes tough to bring a coach in on trial when we're all scattered all over the globe. But I was here, came in, worked with them, and as much as they were looking at me, I was looking to see what they were doing too. And I'm very, very impressed with how things are set, and excited to be part of it.
Now, obviously, it's a big wrench to leave SFU. You've been there since 2008, I think it was. Mm-hmm. Did you really have to weigh it up, or was this like a no-brainer? This was the opportunity that you wanted to have?
Had to weigh it up, definitely. This is a great opportunity, and I'm excited to be here. That's why I'm here. But we've done a lot at SFU. We've built something. I think we've put a fantastic infrastructure in place. I think we're safe to say we're leaving it in a much better place than we got it. So it wasn't easy to just give up your baby, essentially. But the timing was right. We've done everything there other than win the national championship, and I wish them nothing but to go win the national championship. I think we're leaving behind a very, very good team at SFU. The tools are in place, a good group of guys. They're willing to work hard. So hopefully they can achieve that goal. But the timing was right for me now.
And there must kind of be a bit of tinge of sadness as well, just the way that last season went. Mm-hmm. It started off so good in pre-season, and then I don't know what happened. It started, the team just didn't seem to gel, and then you kind of hit the ground running towards the end, but then just fell short. What do you think happened last year?
Yeah, I think for us, a few fans, I think a bit of the challenges we had, and I can tell you exactly what they were. Justus Hogback, who we brought in from Sweden, is a fantastic striker. Only played in 2 games. He got injured and he's got a medical redshirt year, so he'll be a freshman again this year. If we had him, that's another 10 to 15 goals in a season. That would be a huge difference. We also had Adam Jones from Metro Ford, and then we had Pascal Schmidt, who came over from the Stuttgart Kickers, that both had to, under NCAA rules, spend a year of residency. So they weren't able to play. If we had those 3 players, you're looking at a Final Four team that can challenge to win it all. Those guys now will be eligible for the next season. So yeah, it's tough to leave a good group, because that's a very, very good group. And just having trained with them the last few weeks, the nucleus is there. But this opportunity wasn't going to come up every year. So when it came up, I had to take it.
And you obviously had a key role to play in drafting Jovan. How much of an impact do you think he can make on this team? When I spoke to him, he obviously didn't know if you were going to be the coach or not, but he was excited by that prospect just because you know his game, and he put down like what you do, that you developed his game more than any other coach that he did. Do you see that he's still got more potential to go to that next stage now?
I think so. He's a guy that doesn't have there's no ceiling on his game. We didn't bring him in straight out of high school because he wasn't quite ready. We watched him and he showed signs that he could do it, and literally every single year he's got better. And this is why I really promoted him to the Whitecaps, is that I think he can come in here and he can step up and do even better. And the sky's the limit for him. It's great for him to start in the USL Pro. Let's see how he does. And that goes for every player. You come in, you get an opportunity and take it. But he is one of those guys that he certainly hasn't peaked to reach the ceiling by any means. So I'm looking forward to working with him here. It'll be nice to have a familiar face at training.
Now, how much input are you going to have with the players on your squad? Does Robbo and kind of the other management have the ultimate decision, or if there's a player or players that you specifically want to bring in, are you going to be able to do that?
I think it'll really by committee is how we'll do it. Obviously, Robbo he's the manager of the club, so he has full say on all the players. But we'll all work on it together. We'll identify players together. We'll discuss them and make sure that we all agree that these are the right players to bring in, because there has to be a plan for the guys. There's no point in me just saying I'm going to bring a guy in, and if he doesn't fit into Robbo's plan, that makes no sense.
What would you see, like, how would you like to be remembered at SFU? What would you like to see your legacy as being?
That's a tough question. I'm a proud alumni. I got my undergrad degree there. I played there. I had a great playing career. I was an assistant coach there. I was a head coach there. I have a bit of SFU in my blood. To be honest, it's quite tough to stand and see that thunder. Is it a thunder duck or what is it? Standing over there. No, I'm a proud SFU alumni, and it's sad to leave. To be honest, I had a moment before I pushed the send button with my resignation letter. But we've achieved a lot. I'm very proud of the work that we did, and I wish them nothing but the best.
Your playing style at SFU, it was very attack-minded. Do you see yourself bringing that to this role as well?
Yeah, I think so. I think we're going to be a very attack-minded team, which is what the first team are too. I think we'll play possession football, but definitely focus on the outcome. Go forward and see if we can score some goals. Of course, we'll play organised football too at the same time, mesh it. But there is a club philosophy. Fully support that philosophy. I buy into it, and we'll go out and do exactly that.
And like we've talked before about how this was exactly what was needed in BC soccer, that kind of missing link, not just for the residency guys and the Whitecaps guys, but also the local guys to have a chance now to do it. So you're going to have open trials. What would your message be to those guys that maybe haven't come through the residency programme but do have the potential to play at a higher level?
I think probably one of the biggest complaints locally in our local football community is people saying there haven't been opportunities. Well, here is that opportunity. The club are investing in it. They're essentially open tryouts. They need to sign up, obviously, and come show what they can do. But this is your chance. If you want to be part of it and you think you have the ability, show up and come show us what you've got. Opportunities like this don't present themselves all the time. So it's nice to have that opportunity here in Vancouver, and it's going to be great to see some of the local guys show up and people travel from across the country to see what they can do. I'm excited to assess them. We'll give them honest feedback, and hopefully we can make something out of somebody.
That's great. Thanks so much for your time, Alan, and congratulations on your new job.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
So that was Alan Koch speaking to Michael about what he's looking forward to next year, coaching the USL Pro team. So in this third segment, we're kind of going to keep this open and talk about other things other than the Whitecaps. One of the things you guys wanted to really talk about, it happened a little while ago, but it's still recent because it kind of hurt so much because everybody had high expectations. But the Canadian men's under-20 team, they actually let's be honest, they crashed and burned in qualifications. Slamo, your thoughts of what happened there, and was it let's talk about some of the things people have talked about. Is it the development has gone wrong still with the Canada? Is it the team just had a bad tournament collectively, as a whole bunch of them? Did the coaches let them down with some of their choices, or is there something else? Like, one thing we should mention is two players that would have been probably their top two attacking players, Fraser Aird and Dylan Carrero from playing in Scotland. They weren't made available by their club teams. What out of those things do you think strikes to what happened to the team?
I think it's a tough thing to pinpoint, and I wonder what role mental toughness plays in. And I think it's the first time really that we've put a team into any tournament, a men's team or a male team, that the expectation was we were going to be in a final, in a real match, right? Going into it after the draw, the expectation, at least for me and most people I talked to, was that we were going to be in a one and done, unless we somehow surprised Mexico, which no one really believed would happen. But we were supposed to be in a one and done in this tournament.
Either the second or third spot. We were going to compete with Honduras.
One or the other, But we should have been there, right? And obviously we don't see the other young players from other countries playing all the time, but this is a side that we've been watching for a few years now, right? We've been watching these guys for 4 or 5 years, and I don't know, just from the exhibition games, the friendlies beforehand, it seemed like a gimme, right? That we were going to be in the World Cup. So it's shocking. And I don't know, I know Bustos talked about, the players not showing up, and I think like a role of that has to be that mentality, the mental toughness of being a Canadian soccer player or something. We're just expected to lose, and they carried that, into it. That, and I was surprised that we didn't see more attacking players on the pitch at once. I think we still have that Tony Waiters 1986 mentality of if we never let anyone score, the worst we can do is draw. Yeah. And I think we're terrible in Canada with creative players, right? We want kids that run, that, pass, make one touch. Like you hear it all the time on the side. Remember the U18 game we were at Percy Perry, and the Caps were beating Portland, and we all started yelling out the parents say, right? Not up the middle, right? We were all yelling those things, and that's Canadian soccer, and that's like how they play. Don't pass it back, right? Not up the middle, all those sorts of things, and all of a sudden, this group of kids that we've watched play and develop and play amazing soccer, we're doing that Canada stuff. Don't pass it backwards. Don't keep, move it, right? Yeah. Don't try to beat anyone. Don't do anything creative, right? But we have players now that can do those things. So I don't know, did the coach tell them, don't try to keep it simple, keep it too simple? Did he beat that into their head? Keep it simple to the point where no one wanted to do anything? Or was there just a mental, not the mental toughness to go, okay, we're expected to go here, let's go get there, right?
Yeah. I think, I don't know, Robin Gale, right?
Yeah. Rob Gale, yeah.
Rob Gale.
I think he's English, I'm sure.
So Rob Gale, I have a lot of respect for the guy because he was with his team for years, 3 years or whatever it was. Yeah. So I think they see an awesome value in that, and I respect that and stuff. I just don't understand. And I didn't watch it. I didn't get to see every minute, maybe like you did, Slamo. But I don't understand how so many creative and goal scoring players are unable to score against teams that we should be scoring against. I know there's lots of excuses. You mentioned one, another one. The pitch. I don't know if you said the pitch was awful, and our guys are used to playing on turf that's perfect all the time. They're playing on this terrible grass pitch or whatever, but yeah, it was just how can they not be scoring more goals? Yeah. I understand giving up some and whatever, and there were our keepers made some errors, and guys who are from our academy and stuff that we love and respect who made some errors, and that's understandable. They're players, they're people, they're gonna make mistakes, but how we didn't outscore some of these teams, to me, is just mind-boggling with the talent that we had. I know Hansen, you were talking earlier.
Well, there was talk that it wasn't 100%.
So he wasn't 100%, so he couldn't play as much or whatever. But then there was just times where you're like, why are there 2 or 3 weapons sitting on the bench? And this is obviously not going to plan. And then I think also the idea of it was almost is there an expectation this is going to be easier than it is? Because some games you're you knew there was a lot of games in a short period of time and stuff, and so you understand why maybe things are happening. But sometimes you're we need to get this done. We can't look to that last game or that second last game. We need that player should be on Bustos should be on the pitch or whoever should be on the pitch, right? And then who works well together? So we talked about the formation with one striker, and then not having say Jordan Hamilton and Kyle Larin together, or other combinations up front together, and so. It was frustrating and it was saddening to see this group not perform to the best of their ability. And I'm just hoping that, I mean, selfishly, obviously, as our guys here, maybe don't care as much as some of the others, but as our guys come back here, I hope that our coaches, whether it's residency, the first team, Alan, USL Pro, are able just to be able to lift them up again and learn from what happened, learn from, hey, bad things are going to happen or whatever, or learn from, hey, this is our mentality here, whatever the mentality you had there was off or whatever, and just continue to progress. I hope this is not like a thing that is kind of a turning point in a negative sense for some of these players.
Well, Slamo, you were talking before we started recording this part of the thing. You were talking about the coaching when it came to the goalkeeping. It seemed like when they waited for some goalkeeper to make a mistake, and then they switched them out. And does that even breed confidence? Are they like looking over their shoulder a little bit?
I don't know. I would like to have next time you're talking to Marco, see what his take on that was. He made the mistake in the game against Haiti, and then he was on the bench the next game, and then Nolan played.
But they did win the game. They did win the game.
They won, but he made the mistake, and he knew he made the mistake, and it's his weakness that hopefully Marius is going to be working on, because it's the exact same goal he let in against TFC in the ACC, right? And we've seen those goals in residency where he's gone up and not come down with balls, right? Yeah. So it's something that he needs to work on for sure.
The goal against TFC, which I think was a foul, was a similar kind.
But that's sure it's a foul. But, put that guy in the frickin' hospital, man. Yeah. Stick an elbow in his jaw and lay him out, right? It's like you're the keeper, man, So, I love Marco. So he's a great keeper, but that's got to impact him a bit, too, that he's lost that spot. Unless that's why I say it'd be interesting to talk to him. Unless it was predetermined. You're going to play this one, then we'll switch and give you a rest, blah, blah, blah.
The funny thing is the expectations were high, like you were saying, especially because of that tournament they had. I think it was October, November, something like that. I can't remember exactly what month, but I think it was a U21 or U22 side where they went they drew England, and then they beat Russia and they beat USA. And I think that really raised the expectations for this men's under 20. Sure, it wasn't all the same players, but there was a similar type of squad that they were going to have there.
Well, and plus we've seen them, like I said, we've seen them for 3 or 4 years, and they're a quality side, right? Mm-hmm. Like there was no reason to think that this isn't a top 3 team in this grouping, right?
This grouping, let alone CONCACAF period.
Yeah, CONCACAF period, seriously, right? Like I would expect, I expected this team to be able to beat the U.S., based on what I'd seen from U.S. players, because obviously we're more familiar with the U.S. players and the Canadian players than we are with Honduran players or whatever. But, side by side, I would expect this team to beat the U.S. team. And they couldn't even beat Cuba. Mm-hmm. Shocking.
Some of those losses, like the teams that it was Cuba, right, who got smashed earlier. Yeah. It was just like... And I think
that's the one game I missed.
Yeah, and that's the game that I think people were like, oh yeah, obviously we're going to beat Cuba. They got smashed 8-0 or whatever. So like, it's just that last game. And I think that's maybe that's where part of the mentality broke down.
Yeah.
Another a bit of sad news, especially if you're living on the island this week, was the folding of the Victoria Highlanders. Obviously the expenses were too much. They were losing money. I want to ask you first, Lamo. You come from Thunder Bay, where the Thunder Bay chill.
Wait. You're the first one to mention that?
But it makes sense to mention. It's the same level.
Should we talk about Tony Callistro's resignation? The longest serving coach in the history of Canadian soccer.
Did he tell you first?
He did. He sent me a text and said, I just want to pass it by you, if what do you think? I said, well, Tony, if that's what you feel, then I think that's the right move.
Well, that's not the knowledge I was asking you about. But coming from Thunder Bay, and it's been a pretty successful team in the U.S.
It's the most successful team in North America,
there you go.
Let's face it.
So what do you think went wrong with the Highlanders compared to this? Were they just not able to get the community behind the team? Or coming from, obviously, you're living on the Vancouver, not in on the island
for
itself.
Thunder Bay's sport town, right? I mean... it's always got that going for it. The drawback to that is the distance, which is similar to Victoria, not so much geographical by the crow flies distance, but they have to take a boat
ferry every road trip, right? Yeah.
And, people who may be listening in other provinces, a ferry is not a cheap expenditure in BC, right? So, because we talked about it at a different time, we talked about Kitsap because they also ferry everywhere. But Washington has, reasonable fees, so it's a bit different.
And not only
those
that,
costs
the cost
is too much.
It's too much, and then you got with Calgary coming in as a PDL team as well. They were going to have to fly over to there too.
Yeah.
And that's going to be interesting to see how Calgary handles this and how they're able to fly out to Washington, and Washington teams are able to fly out there.
Calgary won't last neither, right?
Yeah. It's going to be tough to see.
I just can't see that happening.
If they, like Michael was talking about, they come up with, when these tweets were coming out, Michael was talking about BC might do a League One like Ontario. That's where you might see where Victoria might come back, or even a Calgary team might play in that BC League, even though they're from Calgary. Because it's not too bad of a road trip then.
And Thunder Bay, the way it works, because playing there, is you play 2 games, Saturday, Sunday in Winnipeg, and then Saturday, Sunday in Minneapolis or whatever, right? So that's how they make it work. So Calgary, maybe that's what they'll be doing, but they still have to have teams traveling to Calgary as well, and teams will complain about that.
And I'm sure Calgary probably has to foot some of the bill. I'm assuming that.
I don't know.
Well, as a way to get into the league, maybe they had to make some kind of agreement. Because you got the residency teams who have to sometimes travel to Bellingham to play some of the American teams. Zach, what do you think about this? Maybe coming from a supporter's standpoint, the Highlanders had quite a bit of...
The Lakeside boys.
Yeah.
There's some nice guys in the Lakeside boys. And I feel really bad for them because even though there's not a huge group of them, I know this has hit them pretty hard, and they're I think devastated by it. I mean, it's frustrating, it's sad, but you also understand where you had this benefactor who was putting in money and knowing that he wasn't going to see return on his investment, and who was seeking other people to bring influx of cash to the club and stuff, and that didn't work. One of the things I heard, and I don't know this, I forget who I heard this from, and I don't know if this is true at all, but they wanted, one of the things that hurt them was that they were, shut out from going USL Pro themselves by the CSA.
Yeah.
And so, how big of a role did that play on thing? I think these other people who are going to bring an influx of cash into the club. And so, it's a difficult situation. You got to think that something will return in the future. Like you guys are talking about, there's a BC thing or whatever. I don't think this would work, but there's even, I've heard a few people say, well, couldn't Whitecaps FC too be based in Victoria, which doesn't help with logistical.
If you think UBC's far, Victoria's kind of far.
No, but I mean, just in terms of it would be it's not that far away, and you have the front office has partners who.
Yeah, the thing with having the Caps 2 here though is it builds that
you can train together, so
you can train together, but it builds that excitement amongst the whole club is here,
totally,
right?
Yeah.
Well, maybe they could go over for a game or two there, maybe.
Yeah, but that's the problem though. People will come out for those kinds of things, right? You look, I don't know how many people will be when the Caps play the Vikes. And
there was a pretty good crowd last time.
Yeah, so they're going there in 2 weeks. There'll be a crowd there for that. Rangers came and they sold out. That little. I went to go over to go see Kenny and stuff. Say goodbye to Kenny and whatever. But you need more people who just want to get behind it, right? It's the same thing what WFC2 needs here, and it's the same thing you could say our first team is still fighting for in the Vancouver community.
So that's our podcast for this week. Episode 93 is in the books. Before we go, where can we guys find you online?
You can find me in the Twitterverse at Zachary AM. And the movement is Curva Collective.
And you can find that on Facebook too. At Curva
Sure,
yeah. Slamo.
I'm on Twitter at Slamo, 3 S's, SSSLAMO.
I thought it was 3 A's. Oh well, whatever. And you can find me at Whitecaps Beat, and you could find the writing, usually of Michael's, on CanadianSoccerNews.com at AFTN. And he's obviously writing for MLS too. I might as well give him a plug there while he's enjoying himself in London. Once again, that's all for us this week. Thanks for listening. And in memory of Michael McCall,
on the Caps.
When you're listening in some far-flung corner of the globe to the World Service of a Saturday afternoon, crackly reception, interference, cosy, marvellous. Somehow comforting, isn't it? Legendary names, fathers and sons on the terraces, cheesy peas at half-time, pipe for dad, mum's at home making the tea. Everything's all right with the world, isn't it? Saturday afternoon is football. Hmm?
10 minutes left. Yeah,